So if you've been following the Idaho 4 case here on YouTube, you've probably seen a lot of people commenting in threads of videos that Idaho State Police, Latah County Sheriff's Office, Latah County Prosecutor, Moscow Police, etc. are all on a Brady list and are all in violation of the Brady law. Except you have to be careful where this information is coming from. These posts are basing it on this webpage, which is not an actual official source. I'm going to discuss that, but first let's get into what a Brady disclosure is and what a Brady list might entail. So I'm going to start by playing this video that the Bellingham Herald put out because it explains the Brady doctrine really well. Okay, as you can see from that, it's the prosecution who would gather up the information. And one of the ways that they keep files to know who to not call as a witness or to inform the defense about as a possible Brady violation is to keep a list. And they would call that a Brady list or a do not call list. Now, there is no federal law stating that there must be a list. The federal law only talks about how the prosecution must disclose certain information to the defense. It leaves it up to the counties and the states to determine how. And some states do have specific laws about what the prosecutor must do. Washington is one of those states, so let's take a look at their law. Okay, so Washington's HB 1088 says in potential impeachment disclosures Brady list effective July 25th, 2021 requires each county prosecutor to develop and adopt a written protocol no later than July 1st, 2022 regarding the types of conduct that must be enclosed, how Brady potential impeachment disclosure information should be shared and maintained, and what circumstances an officer may be removed from the Brady/potential impeachment disclosure. It also requires local Brady/potential impeachment disclosure protocols to be reviewed every 2 years, the Criminal Justice Training Commission to provide online Brady potential impeachment disclosure training, law enforcement agencies to report Brady potential impeachment disclosures within 10 days, and law enforcement agencies prior to hiring an officer with previous law enforcement experience to inquire and verify whether the officer has ever been subject to a Brady potential impeachment disclosure. Now, to help prosecutors, the American College for Trial Lawyers also put out a guide, the Brady Giglio Guide for Prosecutors, and that also tells them different ways that they can compile the information and keep lists if they need to. Now, this comes from a law office in the state of Washington, and it says about the fake lists. Be aware that there are organizations that post Brady lists, information on the internet that are not accurate. It appears they allow the public to make complaints about officers and prosecutors, but the information is not researched and vetted. In writing this blog, I came across numerous inaccuracies. Each county in the state of Washington is required to maintain an accurate list. If you are not reviewing a county list, you cannot be sure the information is accurate. Now, I want to reemphasize that, and that would be for every state, whether they have a law like Washington does or not. The only place you can get an accurate list is from the county prosecutor. So unless you're sending a FOIA request to the county prosecutor to ask who they have on their Brady list, you should not consider the information accurate. And I will show you some of these web pages. Okay, this page I showed you at the start that I'm showing you again is one of those fake pages. And they actually have a contact list that has the White House on there, Merrick Garland. It makes you think it's an official government page. It's not. In fact, if you do a little digging around on their page, you'll find that they're a scam. They actually send these invoices out to law enforcement agencies and prosecutors' offices. So like this one for Idaho, they sent it out asking for over $300,000. They're claiming that's the cost to update the web page and allow them to make postings on it if they want to. So this level playing field is a complete scam. And yeah, I looked up Idaho agencies on this webpage, and you'll see Idaho Falls Police, Idaho Fish and Game, Idaho Commission, etc. So if you look under Idaho State Police Brady list, you can go down through these names. But what you're going to find is all of these are people that have already been decertified, meaning that they just took these names off of the Idaho public list of decertified officers. So it's not even giving you any new information or anything that would be helpful in a current case, like Koberger's case, for instance, because none of these officers would have been working on the case. Same thing for the officers that are listed on here from the Moscow Police Department. None of these people have been on the force for a while. They are all decertified and long gone. So it would have no bearing on a case now. The only thing it might do is somebody could look at that and say, well, let's not hire this officer. Let's maybe check him out and see if this is really true information. But you'll see right there the decertification number. So then I looked up the one about Bill Thompson, and it says somebody filed a prosecutor misconduct complaint against him for bias on December 29th, 2023. And the person filing the complaint stated, I was informed by my ex-husband's attorney that the case against him was closed. I was never contacted by the prosecutor despite there being a ridiculous amount of evidence of our abuser's admissions. They include financial, emotional, sexual stalking, protection order violation, and child abuse. Due to negligence, my child is still experiencing neglect and physical abuse. There is more documentation from when I reported as well as in the last nearly 9 months. Well, if you click on these documents, which I'm not going to, there are a lot of personal information that's coming from this person, including their sex life, sex acts, etc. And it honestly sounds like somebody who is not well. And this is what happens when you have these websites like this where somebody can just file a complaint over anything without actually going into the prosecutor's office to find out why the case may have been dropped or if the case really was even dropped. And you see up there it says it's been forwarded to the Idaho State Bar. Well, that's because this webpage, because it collects complaints from the public, will forward anything on to the state. And you can see right here, this is the prosecutor complaint form, for example, because there's also one for law enforcement as well. And it asks you what type of complaint, jurisdiction, prosecutor's name, date, evidence, and you submit it. So anybody could submit a complaint against somebody on here. And it's not actually an official complaint form. It's not like you're actually going to the state bar or other entities or like to the prosecutor's office. Now they're claiming they're forwarding it on, but again, this is not an official web page. Now, the other thing to note is it says Moscow Police Department is not in compliance with the nationwide public-facing platform of record, the Brady list. Well, it doesn't matter if they're not in compliance with this list because this is not an official list. And if you go through every single department in the state of Idaho that's listed, it says they're not in compliance. And if you go through every single state in the US on that page, it says they're not in compliance. Like, I could have screenshot all 50 states for you. In fact, I started to, and then realized, no, this is stupid and is going to take forever to post all these. But that site literally says everybody is not in compliance. Yeah, because their site is fake. It's not the real thing. It's not a prosecutor's office, which is the only entity that really is in charge of compiling these things. Here's another example of a fake list website when you Google. Notice they don't even have like anything there for advertisers, and then they've got the states listed, exploring questionable law enforcement across the country. But you click on that and it's basically the same as the other fake sites for information. They glean it off the public, and they glean it off old records from state websites. Okay, now this page is actually an official Idaho webpage from the Idaho government, and it's a decertification list. So it lists any officer and what agency they work for that has been decertified. So it's not an actual Brady list, but it is a good resource for getting official information on who has been decertified. And this is what the list looks like. And it's under apps.post.idaho.gov. And you'll see it tells the name and the details and the date. And it looks like so far this list goes up to 2023. So that's the most current on there for the decertifications. But as I said, the only true list comes from the county prosecutors. They have the most updated information, as it is their job to keep that information and inform the defense during a case if there's someone that is in potential violation. So you would need to fill out a Freedom of Information Act, request a FOIA request to determine that information. But if you see somebody out there saying that all of these different agencies are not in compliance, that is not true. There is no way of determining compliance except for if a prosecutor's office is found as not disclosing Brady Giglio. Then you could say they're not in compliance. But just because they don't submit information to that fake web page doesn't mean that they're not in compliance. So please think for yourself when you hear these things. Do your own research and look at federal law, state law, county laws, because you will find that there is no actual federal law saying that a list must take place. The federal law is just the act of disclosure, the Brady Giglio disclosure. So hopefully this helps. If you see those comments in people's threads, you understand more about where those are coming from.